Hey, I'm Siobhan, community cultivator and founder of Be Free Project. The Be Free Project podcast was created for community, sisterhood, and personal growth. Each week, you'll be inspired and motivated to do the work to show up for yourself so you too can feel fulfilled and be free. Now grab a pen and a notebook and let's get into the show. The best decision that you can make today is joining the Be Free Inner Circle at BeFreeInnerCircle.com, a community for like-minded women to find their forever friends and get accountability to do their personal growth work. Your membership includes a private, exclusive community of women who are not only showing up for themselves, but for one another. Weekly live events with me and or guest speakers, daily accountability so this way you can finally get stuff done, mentorship from yours truly, and so much more. Now, there's no long-term commitment and you can cancel at any time. However, I can guarantee the moment you join, you're going to feel a warm embrace and you're going to want to stick around. Every single member of the Be Free Inner Circle will walk away with clarity, fulfillment, and confidence because guess what? When you're around me, you're going to win. So come and grow inside the Be Free Inner Circle at BeFreeInnerCircle.com. Hey, welcome back to the Be Free Project podcast. I am excited to be in your ears once again. And this week I am having an amazing interview, which I'm so excited about. I'm interviewing my friend Tameka Ross, who is a writer and storyteller passionate about you realizing your highest potential. Her blog, From Tameka, is a personal development blog about the process of self-discovery and inner work, a community where conversations are had about your unfolding and becoming. Tameka, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Me too. Like, this has been a long time waiting, right? Like, so we can finally get on here. So I'm super excited to have a conversation with you today. And what I like to ask you're welcome. And what I like to ask each guest as we're getting started is, how's your heart today? How are you really feeling?
How does my heart feel? I feel full. I feel grateful. I've had an easy morning. I was able to read and journal and just kind of sit with my thoughts, and that always kind of eases my spirit in a way that is just perfect for me. So I'm feeling good. I feel great.
That's good. I'm glad to hear, especially starting your day off with gratitude. Like, that is always amazing. So tell me, what inspired you to begin to create the life that you want to live?
I think like most people, I'll just speak for myself. My journey started out in pursuit of the things, like the house, the husband, and while in pursuit of the things, you realize like your shortcomings in the with attaining those things and then maintaining those things, and you realize your shortcomings in a way that's like, oh, I got some self-work to do. Like, before I get the house, before I get the husband, before I get, those things, those external things that we chase, I realized that like I'm not completely happy with who I am and how I'm showing up in my own life, in regards to my relationship with myself. So I would say that started my personal development journey.
And was there something happening that like triggered a thought like there has to be more to life than this, or like there's something missing, like I need to go from doing this thing to something else? Like, was there something happening or like some type of life experience that triggered that thought for you?
I think for me, it was becoming a mother. A lot of my growth and development came through my motherhood process because I was 21 when I had my oldest child. And so when you're now responsible for another life, shit gets really real.
Sure enough.
Okay. And so I think in me growing as a mother and in motherhood, I realized that for as a mother, you want so much for your children, and in me discovering and just growing in my love for my daughter, As she grew, and as I, thought and realized the things that I wanted to teach her, I realized my own shortcomings and the things that I needed to learn and the places that I needed to grow. So I would just say that motherhood really served as a mirror to me, for me to see my own brokenness and all the places that I felt unfulfilled.
Yeah, I can, as I'm listening to you, I feel like the same thing happened to me. Like, I had children. My first child was born when I was 26, the second when I was 28. And I remember at some point, like, thinking there has to be more to life than this. And it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't that I didn't enjoy being a mother or enjoy being a wife, but there was something missing. There was a void. And it was like, it was screaming, like it was this nagging feeling that I was feeling all the time. But then I didn't hear people talk about that. It's like, oh, when you get
Right.
married and you have kids, like that should be the joy of your life and you shouldn't want more. But to your point, like there always was this yearning for more. And what I think happens in many cases is that women ignore that sign. And so then they
Yeah.
end up being miserable, raising their children or pouring all of their life into their children and not even considering themselves anymore. I see that
Yeah.
all the time.
I agree. And like you were saying, nobody was talking about it. And I think that's something that society has taught women, that once you're a wife, once you're a mother, you should be full. Your life should feel complete. That should give you everything you need. And I think so many women, once they reach that place in their life where they are somebody's wife and they are somebody's mother, and it's just like, but wait, like this emptiness hasn't, it's still here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this these feelings of unfulfillment, I still have them, and they don't feel safe enough to say that out loud.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
No, they don't. And that's why I think that, like, from reading your blog and then other resources, that it's so important to look to people who are being real and being honest and
Hmm.
expressing their truth. And then this way we have a resource, if you will, where we don't have to feel guilty about wanting more for our lives and being a mother and a wife, because there's nothing to feel guilty around that. But so many women do. I really
Yeah,
do.
absolutely.
What would you say was the first personal growth resource that you used, whether it was a book, whether it was meditation, journaling, therapy? Like, what was the first thing that you used as a resource or a tool to begin your personal growth work?
I would have to say, generally speaking, it was books.
Mm.
I just feel like the best one of the best tools and resources for personal development is new information, right? So many of us come to, um, we have our own experiences. We have the examples that we saw from, people in our family or people in our community. We know what we know.
Mhm.
And sometimes that's not enough, especially when you begin to get honest with yourself about what you truly desire in life. When people do that type of work, a lot of people find some really big goals and dreams that they have for themselves.
Mhm.
And in order to get to that place, you're going to need some new information about who you are and what you're capable of. So I would say books foremost,
Mhm.
like new information.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. Do you remember the first book you read?
Um, let's see. I would say one of the best books that really helped me see myself differently was I believe it's called the Principles and Power of Purpose by
Mm.
Dr. Myles Monroe.
Okay.
Um, yeah, that was a game changer for me.
Okay.
That was a game changer for me. And just because in the book he talks about um, the principles of purpose in such a way that like it applies to everything in
Mhm.
life that exists.
Mhm.
And so in reading that, like, I'm like, oh, if these are principles that apply to everything, then that means that all of these things are true about me. And
Mm. Mhm.
so that helped me to frame um, my presence here and my purpose here in such a way that I could connect to it and begin to get really passionate about fulfilling it.
I love that. And that was the thing for me too. Like books was it because my family was not on no personal development, nothing, right? And even
Yeah,
when I
yeah.
look at my friendships, like I was the person who was starting on this journey. And so I didn't have a person to look to per se, but I definitely turned to books. And I remember my first person, I didn't know that this was a personal development book, but now having it and rereading it, it definitely is, which is Acts of Faith by Iyanly Vanzant. And I got my first copy of that when I was 19 years old. And I'm like, what did I even know? I don't know. I have no idea. But, and I still have that original copy. And then over the years, it's just been listening to Oprah, reading books, like specifically to literally help me transform my mind. And so that's one of the things I say that I'm grateful for the most is like books, like having access to knowledge. And I think people often take that for granted, or they're looking to see, okay, well, where do I start? Go to your library. You know, like literally get a book to kind of help you with that. So I'm glad that that was your starting point, because that was mine as well. And then of course there were other things that added on to that. So how would you say that you show up for yourself, and then what does doing the work look like specifically for you?
How do I show up for myself? You know, like I said before, I was became a mother at 21. So very much most of my young adult development happened at the same time that I was learning how to be a mother, right? So much of myself went into I want to be a good mother. I want to provide a good life for my daughter. I want to give her the best. Um, so me showing up for myself at this point in my life is putting myself first. For so long, I was the last person on my list. And when I first made that discovery, you know, at first, you know, showing up for myself and putting myself first meant like things like, you know, getting my hair done and, you know, nails and massages and all those things are great. But what I really discovered after doing some deeper digging is that I need to honor my heart and I need to honor my emotions and my desires, like putting that first and serving myself before I serve somebody else.
That's so good. So what does that look like? Because I understand it because I'm deep into this personal growth work. But if I'm a listener and this is my first time hearing like, oh, how do I honor my heart, or how do I honor my feelings or my desires? Like, what would that look like for someone? Because I know what it looks like in my head, but just from your perspective.
Just being honest with yourself about how you feel and being honest with yourself about what it is you truly desire for your life. And I think sometimes we get complacent in with what we have, even though it's not serving us. So that could mean relationships, that could mean a job, that could mean, you know, certain dynamics in your life that like never felt like a good fit to you, but you just went along with it and you didn't question it. You didn't, you know, you didn't want to ruffle any feathers. Like just being honest with yourself about who you are and what you want. And me asking myself, and I love your first question when we started, like, how does your heart feel? Like checking in with myself. How do I feel today? What do I need today? You know, so often we start the day and we just get busy going and doing and serving, never slowing down. Like, what do you need? Do you need time off? Do you need a massage? Do you need to meditate? Do you need to cry? Do you want to laugh? Like, whatever it is, like, you know, it can change depending on what day it is and what season you're in your life, but just making space and room for you. And I think this happened, I think a lot of women can relate to this, but for me, the source of it is I became a mother when I was also learning and discovering myself. So those two
Mhm.
things are very intertwined to me. So to
Yeah.
separate motherhood from my identity and then ask
Mm.
myself, Tameka, who are you? What do you want? And what are you willing to do to get there? Um, is has been a big game changer for me.
Yeah, and I will say, when I think about the women that are in the Be Free inner circle, or my community on social, or even people that I connect with in real life, that is a challenge for people. Number one, to know what they really want for their lives. There's so many
Mm-hmm.
people that just have no clue, because they're so busy chasing what society has said they should have, or what
Mm-hmm.
family or peers or what have you. But then the second part to what you shared is how we struggle with being honest with our feelings. So we ignore our feelings
Mm-hmm.
over and over and over again. And it's like, why do we do that? And I think it's a lot has to do with culture, because we're just not raised to like pay attention to feelings. And even if I know when I
Yeah.
was growing up, you better not cry, or you better sit down and be quiet. There was
Right.
no room
Right.
for expressing emotions. And so now we're adults, and now we're supposed to like figure this stuff all out. And it's like, you don't know what you don't know. So I love how you checked in with yourself and said, okay, well, what do I want? What do I need? And then not only asking yourself those questions, but then having some type of action behind it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because people will sit in
Exactly.
stuff and then they don't move, they don't do nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So now I want to transition to the main conversation I want to talk about, which is friendship, right? That is just
Okay.
like my heart, my heart, my heart. And that is, I really want to have a conversation because you and I became great friends. We met in January of last year at a conference. We were at the
Mm-hmm.
conference again in March. And then from March on, I feel like the friendship has just been going upward. And I will
Yeah.
say to the audience, you were not checking for me, right? Oh man, you were
Oh,
not
we
looking
we
for new
gonna tell the
friends.
truth, Siobhan. We're gonna tell the
Yes,
truth. Okay.
we go tell the whole truth to the audience. But I won your heart over, right? I have won your heart,
Yeah.
which I'm very proud. I'm very honored for that. But I
That's so
that
funny.
experience, like what I'm realizing about friendship is that I have, we built this like amazing group of friends that we have. And it was something that I didn't know that I needed in the way that I now have it. Like it's really mind blowing. I was
Mm-hmm.
telling one of our friends yesterday, I said, we are so lucky. Like we are really lucky
Yeah.
because as I'm sharing more stuff about friendship on the podcast and on my social media platforms, and I'm hearing what women are saying, they're really broken around friendship. Like they
Mm-hmm.
don't have it, right? And so I guess my first question for you is that why is sisterhood and friendship important to you based on where you're at in this season of your life?
Hmm. I'll say this. I'll be since we're being honest.
We being
It
honest?
has not it has not always been important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was having a conversation with my daughter, she's 17, the other day, and I was asking her about this girl that goes to her school that she hadn't mentioned in a while. And she was like, "Yeah, mom, we don't really talk." She was like, she's one of those girls that like hangs around a lot of guys and like it's like, oh, I don't have any female friends because they're jealous and they're this and they're that. She was like, she's one of those girls, right? And I laughed. I was like, well, I was one of those girls. I was one of those girls that had a lot of guy friends and could count on one hand the number of female friends that I have, and I would defend that. Like, women are jealous, women are this, women are like, and so me and my daughter always tease each other and say if we were peers, we wouldn't be friends because we're very different in that
Uh-huh.
way.
Uh-huh.
And my daughter is like, I'm a girl's girl. Like I'm rooting for girls. I want girls to make it.
Yes,
And I was
yes.
like, it was a proud moment because I didn't grow up having that thought process.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm older, now that I understand so much more, I think the importance of sisterhood is really about being seen and having somewhere. to go where you can fully be yourself, you know? Um, I think for especially for Black women, um, so we encounter so much in the world, so much. And I think a lot of our conditioning that we got, we're just gonna keep it real
Mm-hmm.
from our mamas and our aunties and our grandmamas, is to not trust,
Yes.
is to watch your back
Yep.
and, that whole narrative. And so when you are able to have a good, genuine, healthy sisterhood collective,
Mm.
like that elevates everyone included. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yep.
And when you can create something where somebody can fully show up as themselves and be seen and heard and valued because of it, like like I said, everybody grows, everybody expands, and we all benefit from that growth and expansion. So I can say that I have not always had these sentiments, but
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely see the value in it now. And a lot of it is because of the friendships that I have now and all that I'm gaining from those friendships. So I would have to say it was, my experience has changed my mind about that. But I didn't always place a high value on sisterhood.
Yeah. And so let me ask, going back to your conversation with your daughter and knowing that like you mostly had guys as friends, like was there something that happened with the friendship with a woman or that made that happen? Was there a triggering moment? Was it solely based on culturally with like aunts and grandmothers saying don't trust women, like, or did you have your own personal experience like, you know what, I don't want to kick it with females in this kind of way. I can kick it more with guys because X, Y, and Z, you know?
It's probably a little bit of all of those things, if I'm
Okay.
being
Okay.
honest. But I will say a lot of that just lends itself to my personality. Like I am very much a slow burn. Like I'm not. If I love you, and you know it and you feel it. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a friendly person.
Okay.
Like I don't. I don't. I think I'm a nice person, and I think that I'm sweet once you're in.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not in, I, I wish y'all the best. I just don't have a whole lot to say to you. And so I think, like, and with that being said, um, a lot of um, letting somebody in requires a certain amount of vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I haven't, um, that I did not manage well
Mm-hmm.
in the past. And so, in that regard, guys were just easier because they didn't require that.
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
And so, I think it's a little bit of all of those things. I think it has to do with the messaging that I got, the conditioning, my personality, just my immaturity back then. And I don't know, it just, in a lot of ways, it just felt easier.
That makes sense. And that's what I get because I hear that often. Women love to say, whenever I do a post about women empowering one another, or, they're always, every now and then, I'll say this now, that there will be someone that comment, well, I don't hang with women because I can't trust them. Women are dramatic. I only have guys as friends. And my first thought is that somebody hurt you at some point in your life. Someone has, you've had a falling out with a friendship and you have yet to heal. And so when your response
Mm-hmm.
is like that, I just feel like there's some healing that needs to happen. And most often I'm right about that. And
Yeah.
so the message that I want to continue to put out in the world, especially because I know what it looks like to go through a friendship breakup. I've been through that. But then I also know what it looks like to attract amazing women in my life. And to your point, how my life has elevated because of the women that I have in my circle. And had I not
Mm-hmm.
had you guys as friends, I feel like things will look very different for me as I'm growing. So that, yeah, I wanted to kind of point that out because I hear that often, how women feel like, oh, I can only be friends with men. But my thing to that is like, who hurt you? Who hurt you? Who broke your trust? And have you healed from that? Have you grieved it, in order for
Yeah.
you to open up and be,
Just
for new
straight through the front
friendships?
door, huh, Siobhan? Just like, who hurt you?
Yes. And they don't be ready to me because they do not
No,
be
of
ready.
course not. Of course
Like, why
not.
this girl asking me these questions? Because I'm trying to help. I'm trying to help you see
Yeah.
yourself,
And I think sometimes we just stick with the narrative that we've always had. You know what I'm saying? Until something comes up that challenges that. For me, it was my friendships and being at low points in my life where, like, you know, only I could, the support and love that I got could only have come from a Black woman. You know what I'm saying? And that made me challenge my own perspective. The value of that experience made me challenge my own perspective. So sometimes we say things because we've always said it, until somebody like you, mad, asking questions and like digging deep, like, we're like, wait a minute, why do I think that? Why do I feel that way? So yeah.
So let me ask, since you weren't checking for new friends, that's how we're gonna put that. Oh man, how did you know, or what made you open to start building new friendships, since you were already content with the friendships that you had?
I think, I can just, okay, so I'll speak specifically to you. For you, you were just like, you were just light. Like, you were like, your energy was so, you had like a pureness and an innocence to your energy, that was attractive to me. And I'm a very intuitive person, so I lean towards like what feels good and what feels right. And so I kept showing up, you kept showing up, and it was just like, like our relationship just evolved from that point. But I don't know. I would have to say that it's something. It was the way that it's you being yourself and the way that you showed up. Because I don't think, and I'm trying to make sure this is a complete and honest statement. I don't think that I would necessarily be open and receptive to that from just any and everybody.
Right.
Like, I would have to say that it was something specific about you that felt like, okay, this is a safe place to go. So
I think too, and I was just talking to our other friend about this. I think timing is everything. Because had you ladies come in my life pre last year, I wouldn't have been open, right? Because I thought that the group of friends that I had since I was 14 years old, I thought that that was all that I needed. And because they were like sisters to me, even though I knew I needed like friends that were in this entrepreneur and personal growth space, if you will. But as far as like close friends that could get into my heart, I was like, I'm good. And it's interesting the way that we position ourselves like that until you meet certain people and you're like, oh, wait, I ain't good. Like I can use more love and more connection. And what our friendship has showed me is that I thought I knew what friendship was, but when we were on vacation, it opened my eyes in a whole new way that I didn't even know that my eyes could be open in that way. And so I appreciate that a lot. And so when I get questions, I get asked this question a lot, like, how do you make friends as an adult, right? Like, how do you make friends now that you're not in elementary school or high school anymore, but we're adults and then we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? So how do you make new friends in this space? Do you have any suggestions for that?
I'm probably not the best person to ask.
Not that one. I'm like, she's probably like, girl.
But I do have some thoughts.
Okay, I'll take your thoughts.
So what I will say is, in seeking genuine, healthy, good relationships, whether it be friendships or even romantic relationships, but I'll keep it to friendships since that's what the lane we're discussing this in. I would say make sure that you are being good to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
number one. Make sure that your relationship with yourself is one that is healthy and good. Number two, make sure that you're willing to give what you require,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because a lot of people um, want amazing friends, but they don't want to be an amazing friend.
That
So
part.
make sure you're willing to give what you require, and then allow the relationship to unfold and evolve as it would. You know what I'm saying? Not rushing to get to a particular
Yes.
space, or rushing to, like, you sometimes, we have certain behaviors in our mind that we want people to have and exhibit, or we want them to behave a certain way. And it's just like, give it time to develop and grow into whatever it's supposed to be, and something else that you said, you feel like our relationship had a lot to do with timing. And I think you're right. Like, even when you think about our experience at the conference that we went to,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the exercises and things that we did at the conference were very put us all in very vulnerable moments, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're literally being vulnerable with a complete stranger.
True,
And
true.
so I think that also, like, like, immediately tore down some walls that might have been there,
Mm-hmm.
so that we could, as a launching pad for us to continue to grow from that space. But um, I think that was a good point. I think that had a lot to do with kind of like the priming of our
Mm-hmm.
relationship.
I never thought of that, but you're absolutely right. I think we were already in a vulnerable position when we talking about our insecurities and to
Right.
5,000 women. We like, oh, well, then I definitely could talk to these few
Yeah.
ladies. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think another thing that was really helpful for us, and people can take this how they want, but COVID with the pandemic, because it
Hmm.
slowed everything down where our
Yeah.
lives weren't as busy as I know my life
Hmm.
would have been very busy with events and like lots of other things. But because of
Yeah.
COVID, I'm just sitting at the house. I'm like, all right, I'm going on a walk. Let me send Tameka a voice note, and
Right.
that became a ritual and a routine for all of us, or whether it's FaceTiming or however we stay connected. And because of
Hmm.
the connection that we were building and the frequency that we were chatting, even as a group or independently, I think that shaved off a lot of time that it would have taken us to get to the point that we're at now. And so, how important do you think intimacy is in a friendship? Because I feel like we have a really great intimacy, but
Hmm.
pre-reading some material and things like that, I didn't think, like, I knew I wanted intimacy in my friendship, but I didn't know how to communicate that. But now I'm like, oh no, that's exactly what you were looking for. And so, how important is that for you in your friendships?
Um, I think it's very important. I think that's the only way that you truly get to know a person.
Mhm.
Like, and I think it takes a certain level of maturity, for an individual to um, to be intimate in a friendship. Like, you've got to be at a certain place within yourself to be like, hey, here's all of me, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Because none of us are one thing all the time, right? There are many different sides to Siobhan. There are many different sides to Tameka. And so being intimate allows you to, number one, be vulnerable. Number two, build trust in such a way where that person can show up as their whole self,
Mhm.
um, and still feel loved, right? And
Yeah.
still feel
Yeah.
supported, still feel seen. So I think that's probably, that and communication are probably, at the top of the list when it comes to,
Mhm.
developing genuine friendships.
I agree. I agree. I did a post yesterday about it said everyone needs this in a friend. I forgot how I phrased it. It was just like this list of things that I felt like every friendship needed. And one of the things that I had on the list was that you need friends in your life that will make and hold space for you. And so then someone commented on that post and she said, um, I don't have friends that make and hold space for me, something to that nature. And when I read that, I'm like, wow, like, okay, now I know I have that. But again, I feel like the reason that I've been able to attract amazing friends is because of the energy that I put out, but everyone doesn't have that same thing. So how do you make and hold space for your friends? And do you think that that's important?
Oh, I that's probably number one on my list as far as like priorities when showing up for my friends. Like
Yeah.
that is so important to me because people are managing and dealing with so much. And if I'm your friend, there is not one hard thing that I want you to go through or encounter alone, right? Now, you can choose to go through it alone, but if I want to offer myself to you in that way, like this is a place that you can land, right? This is a place that it can feel like home to you, right?
Yes.
When everything else is falling apart, right? And you know, we've been talking about being a wife and a mother, and so much of serving in those roles is you giving so much of yourself, right? And so one thing that is paramount to me is being somewhere where my friends can just be, right? You don't have to have any answers, you don't have to have any solutions. There's nothing to fix here. Like whatever it is, like is it prayer? Is you need to cry, you need to laugh, and like creating space for them to just truly like not have to be the strength, right? Like you can fall apart with me, right?
Oh, that's
And I look you in your face and tell you, you are amazing, right? And that I don't have the answer or the solution to this, but I have the faith and the confidence that you will figure this out, right? And just offering that to people, I think it is the most, I'm trying to make sure this is true, but the most important thing to me in my friendships. Like, I want to be that for my friends.
And the same, like, man, your words are just so beautiful. I'm like,
Thank you.
yes, yes. I'm trying to hold back so we can get it all out. But it is so important. I don't know if I realized that pre last year, how important, actually, what it really looked like for somebody to make space. Because people
Okay.
can say
Okay.
that they're making space and holding space or whatever, but the action that comes behind it looks very different. And I
Yeah.
remember initially when I started having this experience where, you know, our friend was making space, and I'm like, what is this? Like, you're not about to judge
Yeah.
me for what I just said. And I
Yeah.
remember feeling so exposed based off of one of our conversations. And I sent the email like, I feel exposed. I don't know why I shared that with you, but it was so safe. And then the more that I got comfortable sharing, then it was reciprocated. And I'm like, oh, this is what vulnerability looks like in a friendship. And I can honestly say I hadn't had that to this extent pre these friendships that I have now. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that it's a challenge for women to really be vulnerable. I don't think that that is something that comes across really easy, out of fear of being judged
Judged.
or
Yeah.
being able to trust the person fully, that they are safe, that they're going to keep their business with them and not go
Right.
share it
That
with the
it's going to
next
stay
person.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Absolutely.
think it's a
Absolutely.
challenge, but I think as I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about the things that I'm creating around friendship and the conversations that will be had, number one, you got to be able to make space for me. And I'm not saying that you got to allow me to dump all my business, because I'm not here for that. But
Yeah.
if I am going through something, whether it's a win that I'm having or a challenge, like I want to know that, oh, I can rely on Tameka and I can share this with her. And I know that it's safe, that it's not going to make me feel bad or I'm going to second guess for even sharing. And women don't have that. They don't
And
have that.
I love that you said that, because even that applies to like celebrating wins too.
Yes,
You know what I'm
yes,
saying?
oh,
Like it's
yes.
not just all about the hurt, the pain, and the hard stuff. Like I want to celebrate you. Like if you call me with good news, you're gonna think that happened to me, because I'm gonna be so on 10.
Yes.
Like because Like, and so many women, like, they're not even sharing their accomplishments in their friend groups. They're not even telling, their friends about their blessings or what's happening new, because they're like, well, it's not happening for her, so I don't want her to feel like it, and it's just like we've just got to do better at creating spaces for ourselves to just be, like I said, your whole entire self.
Yes,
all of
that
you
part.
all of
Mhm.
you. So
Yeah, because
yeah.
even yesterday when I sent you a voice note about my wins, I was like, "Oh, you're so excited about all my wins that I got going." I mean, you could hear the excitement in
Yeah.
your voice, like from the moment you started talking, and that's what you
Yeah.
want. And I've shared on the podcast before how when we send our text messages in the morning, like it's speaking life into each other, like great
Mm-hmm.
morning, and whatever the thing is that you're looking to accomplish or what I know about you, like we're very affirming and validating
Yeah.
of each other, which I think is really important. And so the reason that I want to have these conversations on the podcast about friendship, so that number one, people can see that it's possible for Black women to be friends and it not be any drama. Number one.
Right.
Number two,
Right.
that you can be vulnerable and you can express and be your whole self with women. And it's not like this crazy thing that only happens to unicorns. And
Mm-hmm.
also that you can make friends as adults, even if you ain't checking for new friends, right?
Right.
Right.
Exactly,
Yes,
it is possible.
it is possible. So, have you had any experiences where you had challenges in your friendships? And if so, how did you overcome them?
Absolutely, absolutely. And when I think about those challenges, they kind of boil down to um lack of communication
Mhm,
between me and the other person, um, my immaturity,
mhm, mhm.
and just kind of operating with the mentality like, oh, she don't want to be my friend. Okay, cool. Moving on. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Just kind of like that mentality that, like, oh, she's not disposable, but I'm not going to extend myself any further than this.
Mhm,
Like, I'll
mhm.
do this, but I won't go that far. And how did I overcome them? Number one, facing and dealing with myself, um, and just my own personal growth and development journey, like being honest with myself, like, okay, this is an area that you don't manage well. And then just going back, I mean, I've had friendships that have ended and we didn't talk for 5, 6, 7 years. And when I look back on it, we were both being prideful, right?
Mm,
And not wanting to um, say what needed to be said. And so that, combined with just time, as time passes, it gets easier and easier not to face the thing that
yeah.
you just ignore it,
Mhm,
and you just
mhm.
put it in the back of your mind, and you're just like, you move on like it doesn't matter, but it does matter,
Yep.
you know. And so for me, making those things right, we're just going back and having the conversations that we avoided 5, 6, 7 years ago,
Mhm, mhm.
and just really being honest with yourself. Because with any relationship, if there's a breakdown in the relationship, both parties contributed to that breakdown.
That part, yep.
You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of times where we may have a breakdown in a friendship, and then we stand on our side of the fence, and we're like, she did this, she
Mhm,
is this,
mhm.
we're very clear about all the things regarding
Yep.
the other person, never looking at yourself and
Mhm.
asking yourself, how did I contribute to this?
Yes. Yes.
you know and so and that's what I mean by doing my own personal development work, is asking myself that question and then being honest with myself about the answer,
Mhm.
has helped me to mend those relationships. And to be honest, those some of those relationships are not what they used to be,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
we can at least say that we cleared the air, we have an
Yes.
understanding, and we can move forward in this certain way. So yeah.
I love how you ask yourself the question, how did I contribute? And I think that that is the most important question to ask whenever you're facing a challenge in your friendship. And even if it leads to a friendship breakup, I know when I experienced that over the last year and a half, I guess now, actually, it'll be 2 years in March, so a little bit more than that. One of the things I refuse to blame her for anything. I definitely wasn't doing that. And because we both can see things through our own perspective. But what I
Mm-hmm.
did look at, I said, okay, Siobhan, how did you show up in this friendship? And one of the things that I've been very honest, I believe on this podcast and in my writings and things online, is that I was codependent. I had codependent issues. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I was an enabler in some aspects. And I
Mm-hmm.
leaned way too much and put way too much trust in someone that I should have never done that. But I wasn't able to see that for myself until I was on the other side of it. And I'm like, oh, so this
Mm-hmm.
is how you showed up. And I'm very honest with that because, to your point, we have to look at ourselves. It's not just one person did something wrong. No, you did
Right.
something too, you know?
Right.
And I don't know
Right.
if I should use the phrase wrong, but you both showed up in a way that wasn't complimentary to the other person. And so now you have to address that. And so when I think about challenges in a friendship, number one, I feel like if that friendship has ended, or if there's like time where y'all just not talking, I think it's okay to grieve that relationship, because at some point it meant something to you. Y'all kicked it, y'all had a good
Yeah.
time, y'all had memories. Like, I think it's important to allow yourself to grieve and then to
Mm-hmm.
heal from whatever wounds that you have around that friendship. And then, to your point, have a conversation if it's necessary to communicate it if you can, and then forgive yourself and forgive the person and move on.
Yeah.
And then I think that will help people start to debunk this myth. No, I don't know if it's a myth, but these feelings of I can't be friends with women. No, let's heal some
Yeah.
of that stuff and do your
Right.
part so that you can have these amazing friendships and have these forever friends that I talk about with the Be Free Inner Circle all the time, and have something really beautiful, because it's possible, you know?
Yeah, and I think we have to keep in mind that what applies to one doesn't apply to all.
Yeah.
Like, okay, say you may have genuinely had a shitty friend. Okay, that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that all of your friendships are going to be shitty.
Right. Right. Exactly.
And I love what you said about, just kind of what did you learn from that experience,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what can you do different moving forward, so if you I think if you take that approach, you can only be better,
Mm-hmm.
which will lead to you doing better.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just and I'm not saying that to say that, like, I know it's not that easy, because friendship breakups hurt harder than losing your man sometimes.
Listen, they sure
Because
do.
that
Ooh.
is a different, like, when women get together, that is a different level of intimacy, that,
Mm-hmm.
like and you're with somebody that truly sees you, like, that is special, right? And
Yeah.
to lose that, right? And to no longer have that available to you, it's hard.
Yeah.
And especially, you know, you were saying that you guys have been friends since you were 14 years old. Like, she was a part of your identity, like 14
Hello.
years old.
Yes,
Like, that's a
exactly.
long time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, who am I without her?
Yes. And I had to
So
go through that because I did not
yeah,
know who I was at
yeah,
all. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Ooh, that was good. We can stay there, but we're going to move on. I have just a couple more questions. So, how do you support your friends? And then, how do you like to be supported?
How do I support my friends? I think, you know, number one is just my for me, the starting place is to make sure that my friends feel seen and heard by me, that they feel supported, that they feel celebrated, um, that, like, I'm constantly reminding them of who they are, because so much of what we experience in life, sometimes it can be contrary to what we're in pursuit of, you know. Like sometimes we can like if your dream is to be an actress, right? And you keep going on auditions and you keep getting all these no's, right? I'm gonna be that friend is be like, they're telling you no now, but one day you are going to be, so just reminding them of who they are. And so what was the question again?
And then how, you're good. So that was the first half. And then,
okay.
And then how do you like to be supported by your friends?
The same way. The same way. And I think that's why what I give is what I want to receive.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Okay. So what advice can you share with our listeners as it relates to friendship, making new friends, and even being a good friend to themselves first? And these are for women who are looking to build real and genuine friendships in their life.
Yeah. I would say, and I think I said this earlier, but just number one, make sure that you are first being good to you. Number two, make sure you are at a space. Make sure you're capable of giving out what you would like to receive. Like, make sure you're capable of giving what you want to receive back from someone else. And just don't attach, don't put pressure on the relationship. Like, let it grow or not, naturally, and progress or not, in a natural way. Because it takes time to build trust, in somebody, and to know that, you can trust them and that they're a safe space. So consistently showing up for somebody, and then you consistently being present for somebody else, is that takes time, and so allow that process to take all the time that it needs, and to just believe that it's possible, and that you're deserving. Like, if you have, a lifetime of childhood friends and you're just not getting what you need in those relationships, like, it's okay for you to walk away from that, and it may require you to be alone for a season, but know that there are genuinely good women out there that would love to support you and that would love to be supported by you. And just believe that you're deserving and worthy of that.
Yes, I love that. I think that's huge, like the belief that you are deserving and worthy of great friends, because that's true. And you're right, like, you can outgrow friendships, and that's perfectly okay. And you can attract the right kind of friends that you need in your life now that you're in a new season. Because as we know, everybody can go. They cannot. And it's hard. That is so hard to wrap your mind around. But when you do, and you open yourself up to attract friends that match your energy, I mean, again, it's a magical experience. I know that's what I am witnessing right now,
Yeah, I agree.
Well, this was wonderful. I'm so glad. This interview was so good. I cannot wait for everyone to listen and share their feedback. So thank you so much for being a guest on the show. And I want you to share.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Share with the listeners where they can find you so they can tap into your work.
Yeah, so my blog is just fromtameka.com, and that's FROMTAMEKA.com. And my IG handle is _fromtameka.
Yay.
So
thank you.
Thank you. Find me.
So I'll make sure that I link to everything in the show notes. And until next time, girl, be free.
My name is Chandra, and I'm from Chicago. What made me join the Be Free Inner Circle was one day I was on my way home from the gym, feeling really inspired and motivated. I remember wanting to call someone in my close circle and dialogue about my inner workings, self-development, and healing, and really feeling like I had no one I could do that with. I remember turning on one of Siobhan's podcasts and a woman coming on after, speaking about her experience inside the Be Free Inner Circle. So I joined. What I love most about the community is all of the women inside this community is extremely supportive, motivated, and inspiring. I literally feel free to be me unapologetically and authentically. And there's also a lot of interaction inside the circle that has allowed me to get to know myself a little bit better. And I also feel like I may have found my forever friend inside this community too.